Okay, hi, it's Carolyn Elliott,
And this is Layla Bernard.
and you are listening to the Sleep Over podcast. And today it's New Year's Eve 2021, and Layla just came over to my house so I could give her her Christmas present.
Yay! We got so many good presents.
And we were just talking about like our attitudes for the new year. I used to be really into New Year's resolutions, like setting a specific goal and then going for it. And I have really exhausted myself on that stream. I can't do that quantifiable goal thing anymore. I fucked myself up too much.
Yeah, you went hard on that, Capricorn lady. You really... you've gotten it done, but I can see why that's tiring.
Yeah. So I am still a Capricorn, and New Year's is just irresistible to me.
Well, it's your season.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's the time. It's time to set a new direction. So anyways, this year I'm thinking instead of in terms of like goal setting, I'm thinking in terms of like attitudes. Like, what attitude do I really want to work on embodying and going forward with in the new year?
Totally.
And for me, this attitude is one of, you and I were talking about this last night too, like not knowing is okay.
Yeah.
It's great to, just like you were saying, you don't have to plan, you just have to arrive. Just show up and do the thing.
Yeah, just be present. Available.
Being present, not trying to figure everything out in advance and put on a show. So trusting in the not knowing, surrendering, and really working on relaxing into the faith that I am loved and supported by the universe without having to... how do I say, just not being motivated by fear in the same way of like, oh, I have to do this, and this in order to be like a responsible, acceptable citizen of existence. And what's interesting is I was reflecting on this morning, and I was like, it was kind of funny, like this idea of like, okay, oh yeah, that I can be supported or safe without having to strive. Because in a way it's not true, in the sense that individual human bodies are highly expendable to the universe.
Totally.
Highly
Yes.
expendable. But it is true also that at the level at which I am the universe, I'm totally safe, right? There's nothing that can happen to me because whatever is going on, I'm just like part of the toroid swirl of the tree of life. And that's all that's ever happening.
Right. The vast orgasm of existence is happening through you and around you. And like the more you don't isolate yourself from that remembrance, the more you're good.
Yeah, because it's just like, you're just like smoothly dying and being born and tortured and killed and nurtured. And it's just like, whoosh, whoosh, it just like swishes around. And I feel like, yeah, obviously, maybe not so obviously, but the rough part is in resisting it. The rough part is in like, no, I'm scared, I have to control it.
Well, yeah, and also like feeling, I think that for me personally, I always feel like surrendering to the, rapes of reality is not as hard as not being embarrassed about it. Like, I feel like that's the place where I really give myself a hard time, is not in being like, I can't do this. I can't handle this. Like that, I'm always like, I'll be fine. I'll make it. Like, I'll get through whatever it is. But I'm often like, but I really don't want anyone to find out. Like it's like not so much resistance as like hiding and like isolation. So that can like be another way to create misery in the world of samsara, is being like, ashamed of the fact that like, oops, your time for a little misfortune is up. Your time for difficulty is up. And instead of being like, oh, yep, I'm just an idiot. Cool. I'll enjoy this. Like, sometimes I'm like, secretly I can enjoy this, but others should not know.
I know. I'm very familiar with that too.
I'm sure some of you out there can also relate to the secret pleasure of your misery, and then being like, but don't anyone find me in here picking my scab. Don't anybody find me in here eating my own boogers. Like, please don't. I'm so gross with my suffering. So embarrassing.
Indeed. Well, so Laila, what's your New Year's attitude?
Oh, Carolyn, my New Year's attitude is that I'm here for joy. I'm here for like fun times. I'm here for really like focusing my attention on what like.
Wait, hold on, rewind though. Didn't you just say that when I asked you before we started?
Okay, I got scared to say it. My real attitude for this year, uncensored, is the world is probably ending. So we should all just do exactly whatever it is that we want to do. As much as we're possible. And like, I know this sounds like a little bit reckless, but there's a part of me that's like, gosh, like, how could I even prepare for a future that is so unknown? So like, I feel like that's really giving me a gift of like, well, don't think so much about the future. Like, don't live in the future. Don't be trying to anticipate what's going to happen, because like the field is changing.
Oh yeah.
So much. You know, I think about this a lot, like, with an ex of mine who has, like, some very successful parents who, you know, were baby boomers and, like, made all the right choices and invested and whatever. And they're always trying to give him judgment because he lives on a electricity and petroleum-free farm permaculture paradise. And they're always like, what are you even doing with your life? Shouldn't you be doing this and shouldn't you be doing that? And it's like, you know, how can we give anyone advice about the future at this point? Like, we just have to follow our gut and, like, do what feels good to us basically now. And, like, you know, as I'm saying this, I'm like, there's hedonism there. And I'm just like, yes. Like, we were talking about that, like, Don't Look Up movie the other day. It's like, well, when things get weird, like, I mean, one of the things that I loved about that movie was that, like, because the end, the awareness of the end came so late to people in that movie, they didn't really have time to be like huge assholes to each other. They didn't like, I mean, there was some show of violence, but like the overwhelming display was like, let's fuck, let's party, let's like hang out, let's like talk, let's like have dinner with each other, let's like do beautiful things. And, you know, I'm not trying to be, like, Chicken Little and say, like, the sky is falling, but I think we all know that, like, the terrain of life is changing, and, like, you know, I'm just seeing it that way, that, like, it's time to just really not live for the future. It's time to live for now. And for me, you know, with what I said before, it was, like, it's about finding joy and fun. For me, like I've really been recently realizing how much I've like deprived myself in my life and been so serious, and I'm just like, I'm ready to be a child. Like, I feel like an attitude of childishness is maybe the like.
That's how you get into the kingdom of heaven.
That's what I'm saying, Carolyn. I know.
JC said it. It was like right there.
I know, and I feel like, you know, in general, I've done quite a good job of that in my life. And there's been a voice inside my head, the stern, like, mature voice that is like, this is very frivolous and this is very weird.
The voice of the Pharisees.
Yeah, the voice of the Pharisees. And so I think, yeah, maybe the best way to say my New Year's attitude is like, fuck the voice of the Pharisee. Like, it's time for joy and, like, fun.
Thank you, Laila. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I agree. It's so interesting. It's when I was in graduate school, I read this book called The Sense of an Ending. I'm blanking on Frank Kermode, famous literary critic. And the whole point of the book is that every generation likes to whip up a story, or every couple of generations likes to whip up a thing of like, oh, the world is ending, this is the apocalypse, to give themselves a sense of significance, to give themselves a sense of, you know, he talks about there's Chronos time, and then there's Kairos time, and Chronos time being like the very sort of plodding, kind of mechanical, same old, and Kairos time being like the, oh, this is like momentous, like special, sacred, mythical time. and that folks, as a way of generating a sensation of kairotic time, will tell themselves stories of a upcoming end of the world. And so I've often thought about that when folks talk about the world as ending, and I've often been like, oh, well, you know, it's just a way that we are generating kairos for ourselves.
Significance.
Yeah, significance and a sense of festival.
Yeah.
Because that's what festivals used to do, you know, when like a whole society would have like a real festival, like, you know, Carnival in Italy or whatever. It would be like a special topsy-turvy kairos time. I guess things like Burning Man in more recent years have been like that.
Right.
And our culture in the U.S., certainly, I mean, I guess pretty much all whatever modern consumer culture is very Chronos time, very like, you know, plotting and deadlines and stress.
Right.
And so it's understandable that there's this like giant hunger for festival and kairos.
And the end of time. Because we're like, this time sucks.
Yeah, exactly. It fucking sucks. And
time's lame.
And of course, I was like, in 2012, me and my now husband, David, we were all up in the reality sandwich evolver scene. That's how we got to meet Charles Eisenstein and I can never pronounce his name now. Achuchabava. Anyways, his name used to be Adam Ellenboss. He's a great Hellenistic astrologer. But we were all up in the conversation about 2012, and the Mayan calendar, and we knew it was a shift in consciousness. We didn't expect like a literal everybody to die or whatever.
Right.
But it was very, very intense and beautiful time, 2012, and it really was a giant cosmic shift in my life and my consciousness and my everything. And it hit particularly hard here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, folks. Like, I often talk to people who were in other places and like they did not have as vivid an experience of 2012 as I did, but I think just kind of side note, the fact that there's the three rivers here and like the Mayan elders like say that their people emerged here in Pittsburgh, that it's like the cradle of, and truly the oldest human remains on the continent have been found at the Meadowcroft site in Pittsburgh, in the Western Hemisphere. The oldest human remains in the Western Hemisphere are in Pittsburgh. Weird. Anyways, that stuff was particularly intense here in the little vortex of the three rivers. So we had a really wild Mayan 2012 time here. But I agree with you that things in 2012 were like, a jiggly bowl of cherries compared to like right now.
I know, and remember how we were also like mad about it too, because like I was way following the Occupy movement. You know, that was a time when me and my partner were like living off grid and like growing our own food and hanging out with the Gandhian nonviolent activists and like diving into that. So like I agree that like back in those times there was like a sense of like the shifting of consciousness and the need to do something different. But I do feel like, oh man, whatever we're going through right now is just a super intensification. And
so intense.
I mean, like, we were talking about the pandemic on the last episode, and I just think it's really interesting. I spent a lot of years with climate activist friends, and when I hear about like the temperature in the Arctic, in like Greenland being like 80 degrees Fahrenheit right now in the middle of winter, I'm just like, good thing we have this pandemic to pay attention to. Good thing we're not actually cognizing the like real situation of the
climate
world.
change. Okay, speaking of climate change, so here we are. It's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's the day before New Year's, which is usually one of the coldest days of the year. It is like
fucking 55 degrees out.
55 degrees outside. There are flowers coming up on my lawn.
Yeah, it's like April.
It's supposed to be like 20 degrees outside, but it's 55.
I know. I was walking around.
Very weird.
I was walking around yesterday being like, my God, what a gorgeous March afternoon we're having. I hear the birds singing, the grass is coming back. I can practically feel the crocuses emerging.
The crocuses are up in my yard.
Okay, well, I was feeling them yesterday. So, here we are, December 31st, crocus season. And, I'm not a fucking scientist, but, from my Extinction Rebellion days, I do have some freak ass facts, but we're not a doom and gloom podcast. I'm just saying it's time to just release our need to keep things as they were.
Yeah, wait, speaking on that note, I want to go grab the Gene Keys because I want to read out loud to people from Richard Rudd's prophesying.
Oh yeah.
How about you talk to the folks about fun stuff while I go get that.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that that I was thinking about when Carolyn was talking earlier and that I've been enjoying is I got the book for Christmas, Meetings with Remarkable Men, which is G.I. Gurdjieff's autobiography. And Gurdjieff is, implicated in a lot of weird occult revival stuff from the turn of the century and is a really interesting character.
Oh, and my family is super into Gurdjieff stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, does everybody know that I come from a line of weird Gurdjieff people? You probably don't know that because I don't talk about it that much, but my dad and my uncle are super all up in the Gurdjieff scene, and it's just a very particular strand of esotericism that most people
Yeah, I should actually ask my dad. I think my dad's parents were on a Gurdjieff wave. But anyway, I was reading the last chapter of his book, Meetings with Remarkable Men, where he talks about, how he accomplished what he accomplished in his life. And it's so interesting because all the people who listen to his story are like, oh my God, so impressed. You're such an amazing, tenacious human being. But the story that he tells is a tale of him losing fortunes over and over and over. And just going from being super rich and having a great plan to spending all of his money on the plan and being destitute still with a great plan. And I feel like that energy really is making sense to me these days of put your resources into the thing that you think is great. And if you lose it all, cool, it'll come back. Who knows, holding on to it for later just makes less and less sense to me these days.
Well, that's great because that makes me feel better about having spent all my money this year, Laila. I really did.
I mean, I was really thinking about you when I was reading that Gurdjieff thing. I was like, yeah, yes, it's normal. It's for now. It's not for a rainy day. It's for now. It's raining now.
The days are raining. It's a raining time.
It's raining. Let's just go,
It's raining.
And with all the instability in the world, part of me laughs because, people are all into investing in cryptocurrencies and talking about how the regular currencies of the world are going to fall apart. And it's just the writing on the wall is nobody knows what's going to be stable 20, 15, 10, 5 years from now. Really, we don't know. It's literally just gambling. And so, getting into the spirit of the gambler and, the trickster just feels to me the right way to go. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I just feel like reading from Richard Rudd here from his great Hermetic masterpiece, The Gene Keys. So this is in the 55th Gene Key, which is probably the center of the book. And I'm just going to read here. It's a section called, this is page 439, The Threefold Awakening Sequence. In part one of this gene key, we looked at the threefold pattern inherent to all universal rhythms, and we charted this through the evolutionary phases of the 3 aeons and our current subphase known as the 333, which holds the master genetic sequence for closing the aeons. So, side note, Aleister Crowley, also all about aeons and saying that we're in the 3rd aeon and sort of the ultimate act. In the last 20 years or so, the world has indeed undergone vast changes in its inner structure. As we move through this incredible portal, so he was writing this in when did he write this? This was published. My edition here was published in 2009. Okay. In the last 20 years or so, the world has indeed undergone vast changes in its inner structure. As we move through this incredible portal, we can identify 3 distinct dates or markers that set the trajectory of the process of planetary awakening and fusion. These markers are points of shift written into the vibrational score of our evolution. They are 1987, the harmonic convergence, 2012, the melodic resonance, and 2027, the rhythmic symphony. These 3 phases of harmony, melody, and rhythm form the imprinting field for the complete restructuring of all vibrational life on our planet. So I feel like reading the 3 sections for people. It's just like a page and a half. Here we go.
You want to take turns?
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
1987, harmonic convergence. How about you read this part for us?
We'll
I want to read the 2012 part.
Hell yeah. You were here.
Yeah, I was in it.
You were at the nexus of 2012. 1987, harmonic convergence. Much has been said of the harmonic convergence. It represented a crossing over point in consciousness in which an unprecedented event occurred. Triggered by a supernova within a neighboring galaxy, 1987 bore witness to the beginning of the age of synthesis. Oh, supernova in a neighboring galaxy. A series of unprecedented celestial alignments made possible a shift in human brain chemistry, allowing us to finally perceive the unifying truth behind all the great teachings of the ages. It is important to understand that these marker points are not events, but ongoing developmental processes. The harmonic convergence is still taking place today on many levels as huge, previously separate spheres of human endeavor come together. We are now seeing the beginning of the synthesis of all the human sciences and arts, of the left brain and the right brain, of the male and the female, of the East and the West. The harmony is, as the great sage Heraclitus said, a hidden harmony, but it is now becoming increasingly more apparent.
Okay. And that's fascinating to think about, right? That it's these ongoing processes that sort of started popping off.
Yeah.
Okay, 2012, melodic resonance. As the most talked about date in recent times, there's not much left unsaid about 2012. Let us then put it in the context of this threefold awakening sequence. In metaphorical language, 1987 was the gestation period, 2012 is the birth, and 2027 is the coming to fruition of the new order. The real meaning of melody is rooted in the understanding of romance. Melody is the aspect of music that catches the emotional breath and causes human beings to dream. 2012 marks the alignment of humanity as a single organism through the breath and the reawakened awareness of the solar plexus center. Whatever deep dreams and longings you hold inside you will be seeded and locked in by this date, as we come into resonance with the heart of humanity through the reawakening of the Atlantean/Edenic awareness. I always thought that was a really fascinating point because I heard many other people saying that same thing around 2012 too, which was like, whatever the dream in your heart is now, that's the seed that you're going forward with. So make sure it's it's really what you want. And I mean, I feel like all of the people around me now have done a great job of, the dream in their heart was, for love and a beautiful, healed world, and it's going to blossom. It's going to blossom. Okay, so let's see. It is blossoming. It's all right. All right, there we go. 2012 also marks a dividing line in human evolution. If by this date you are not in resonance with the dream that is moving into form, your DNA will be locked out of the story. Oh. This is, in fact, a perfectly natural occurrence. Much of current human DNA must be phased out in order for a new form to be constructed. Therefore, over several generations, we will see a great number of old patterns leaving our world. For some considerable time, this means that we may have the appearance of 2 separate realities existing simultaneously. Those who are still living within the old systems and those who are building the new ones. And this is very connected to what I was talking about with Pamela on the
previous episode.
Okay. And so that's intense. That's pretty intense, Richard. Much of our current human DNA must be phased out. If by 2012 you were not in resonance with the dream that's moving into form, your DNA will be locked out of the story. And to me, that simply makes sense from the point of view of like, if you were not in resonance with like the dream of, you know, what Charles
the more beautiful
Eisenstein,
world that our hearts know is possible.
Yeah, if like you were not able to get with that, if you were still like so fearful or whatever, that it's sort of like, yeah, probably fear weakens you, right? And it's like the more fearful we are, probably the less we will be able to be resilient and surviving the viruses and the changes and all of the upheaval that's going on. So I feel like it makes sense from that point of view that like if you weren't able to elevate your awareness above a certain level by 2012, like your lineage
you're gonna end up clinging to something that is a sinking ship.
Yeah. So do you want to read the rhythmic symphonies? This is
Yes.
the exciting upcoming part of 2027. Where are we? We're going into 2022. Man, 5 years. That feels like a long time for this shit to still be cray-cray, but all right.
It's the vast Dionysian party of like, we're all going down, and so let's have a drink and like get to know each other a little bit here, you know? Like, let's look at each other deeply. Feel each other up in the bushes. Many different mystics. So 2027, Rhythmic Symphony. Many different mystics and ancient calendar systems have long predicted the great turning point of human evolution coming to a climax in this current age. The human design system, one of the great systems that laid the foundation for this work on the 64 gene keys, uses the 64 codes of the ancient I Ching as a kind of genetic clock to measure the timing of potential future mutations in human DNA. As a genetic clock, it predicts that a huge genetic mutation will sweep through the solar plexus system of humanity beginning in the year 2027. As such, the year 2027 is a difficult year to put into words. The coming consciousness shift will be an implosion of extremely high-frequency Siddhic consciousnesses. Certainly after this date, nothing will ever be the same again. Beginning in the year 2027, our planet will begin a gradual process of falling silent into a state of awe. Between 2012 and 2027, a core awakening fractal of humanity will lay the foundations of a new world that will, over many generations, reshape this planet from the inside out. Old systems will crumble as the new order arises unscathed within their midst. This time will mark the phase of recreating Eden, which never left this planet but remained as an energetic blueprint. Harmony and melody will be synthesized here into a divine universal rhythm. For the first time, humanity will hear and be the virtuoso soloist in the great symphony of the spheres. At a certain point in our future beyond 2027, we will finally discover the wonder of simply being. There really will be nothing left to do on Earth but enjoy the garden, something our species has not yet managed to do. So I find this really interesting, Carolyn. I mean, I've like read this gene key several times because this is one of my 4 key gene keys. Like 55th is my radiance. So I think it's very interesting. I remember reading him talk about how, you know, the coming age is like the end of stories, like the end of trying to explain, the end of trying to tell a narrative that has like beginning, middle, end, and like just dwelling in the presence of what is now without the plot narrative thrust into something else. I think that's very apt.
Yeah, it is very apt, and it's also kind of amazing too that as we go towards the end of stories, that the story is getting quite climactic, you know, because earlier I was talking about that Frank Kermode stuff and like, oh, everybody just makes up that it's the apocalypse to make themselves feel more significant. But I'm like, yeah, but actually this time,
Well, I mean, you know, it's both like, I think that's just both true. Like, that's true all the time.
I mean,
like,
the world is always ending because it's always changing.
The world is always ending. And, like, in the vast universe of our perception, there's always cataclysmic events happening. Like, there is worlds ending and, like, things just being massively transformed at all times. So, like, it's not wrong to, like, tune into the, like, memento mori of, like, it's, like, we're in the cataclysm.
I think the world that is ending is the world, at the very least, the world that is ending is the world that kicked off you know, with the Enlightenment in the 17th century, like
Yes.
rationality,
Yes.
progress, the exaltation of science as, you know, a replacement for God, basically. I think that's peaking.
Right. The quantification of the world has like come to its climax, and now we're going to have to go back to like qualifying the world and like being in touch with its quality as opposed to its like quanta.
Well, cool. Well, I guess we'll mosey along for today, folks. But we just wanted to talk about our New Year vibes. We wish you all a very happy New Year. We hope you have a wonderful Dionysian New Year's Eve celebration, whatever that means to you.
Right? And that you just love up on everyone and everything that happens. Everything is an opportunity to just be like, oh, God, humanity.
Yeah.
You're so cute.
Yeah. And if things feel really bleak right now, just, get yourself a copy of the Gene Keys.
Get yourself a copy of the Gene Keys. Cannot highly recommend enough. I feel like we should start talking to the Gene Keys Institute about getting some kind of commission.
Some sort of affiliate deal, Richard.
Yeah. If you're listening, Richard Rudd, by the way, we love you and would love to be your henchman.
But also, let's just, let's hold on for 2027. Let's see what happens. Let's,
totally.
Try to see where this story goes, because it's getting real interesting. You gotta say that. I mean, it is really
it's getting really interesting, and like there's nothing to lose. Like, we're all gonna be here, we're all gonna be together, and like let's like really put our money on something fucking awesome and surprising happening.
Yay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.